And we'll begin this season by welcoming an old pal from the Monday night days in NBA, and a big welcome home. A welcome back to Michelle Tafoya. Michelle.
Al, thank you very much. And as you said, Jason Garrett, the new head coach of the Cowboys, and one of the first big moves you made was hiring new defensive coordinator Rob Ryan. Why was he the right choice for this team?
Oh, for a lot of different reasons. I think he's proven to be a great football coach. As a position coach in this league and also as a coordinator, he's a very engaging guy with coaches and players. His players love to play for him.
Tony Romo, speaking of loving to play, back after the fractured clavicle last season. What do you expect from him this year?
Well, I just want him to continue to grow and develop as a quarterback and as a leader of this football team. He's done that over the last 4.5 years. We expect him to continue to do that. He's been off to a great start in training camp.
Last year, you had the oldest starting offensive line in the NFL, so you used your first-round pick to draft young Tyron Smith, 20 years old, youngest guy in the league. How has he progressed in the short time you've had him?
He's done a really nice job. A lot of rookies around this league are at a disadvantage not having the off-season that we typically have. They have to pick things up quickly, and Tyron has done that. We're excited about his progress.
Coach, thank you for the time.
Yeah, have a great night.
Thank you. And Al, we'll be talking to a number of the starters as they leave the game tonight, right down here on the sidelines.
All right, thank you, Michelle. One of the great benefits of preseason football, we can talk to the guys during the game. Norv Turner begins his 5th season as the head coach of the San Diego Chargers, and this year, I'm sure most of you know if you follow the NFL, that the kickoff has been moved from the 30 to the 35-yard line, and that figures to result in a lot more touchbacks. As you can see, twice as many to this point in preseason as there was last year. So the league putting this rule into effect, they want to create fewer runbacks, which would lead to fewer injuries. It's all about player safety. Dan Bailey to kick off for the Dallas Cowboys, and this kick will be returned as Richard Goodman fields it at the 1-yard line, and Goodman comes up the middle, and San Diego, a special teams mess last year, starts this game with a 37-yard run back to the 38-yard line. Philip Rivers, drafted by the Giants in 2004, and then part of that trade that sent him to San Diego and Eli Manning to New York. Ryan Matthews was their #1 pick last year. Floyd, Vincent Jackson, remember the holdout last year, cost him almost the whole year. Randy McMichael is the tight end, and the guys up front, the key men, are the left guard and the center, Thielman and Hardwick. From the 37-yard line. On first down, quick flip to the left side, and that is dropped by Patrick Creighton, the former Dallas Cowboy. San Diego last year, amazingly, led the league in offense, led the league in defense, yards per game first, points per game second, #1 in both categories, but their special teams were abysmal, and that created, for the most part, the 2-5 start from which they never recovered. Marcus McNeil not in the game, not playing tonight. He would be their regular left tackle, so Dombrowski is there. And up the middle, a little bit of a crease there for Ryan Matthews. A short gain, and that will set up 3rd down and long for San Diego.
Well, I thought Rob Ryan might withhold a few of his blitzes, but not so far, coming right off the edge here. They're going to get a little double blitz coming. This is what Cowboy fans are going to have to learn to expect. They're going to fire their bullets this year. No more conservative play.
Last year, the Cowboys gave up the 2nd most points in the league. So Rivers out of the shotgun now, flanked by Mike Tolbert on 3rd down and 8. Here come the Cowboys again, and they get to Rivers, and the pass is incomplete. Force the issue with pressure up the middle. It's Danny McRae, the safety, number 40, coming through the middle of that San Diego offensive line.
Well, Danny McRae is their best special teams player and going to come on a blitz right through the middle, but look at all the pressure. Here they come. And Philip Rivers, they weren't allowed to hit him when they were practicing together the last 2 days, but that rule is now off.
Mike Cyphris to punt. Last year, they averaged allowing 19 yards per kick return, which was horrendous. This is a good kick that's fielded at the 6-yard line by Kwasi Owusu-Ansah. And back to the 17-yard line. And now Tony Romo, for the first time since last October. Tony Romo coming out onto the field as he did in their prior preseason game a week and a half ago against Denver. Felix Jones. Good run on their first offensive play. Gain of 7. Antonio Garay, the nose tackle, coming off a really good year. What a pickup he was. Makes the stop.
Well, for the Dallas Cowboys, this game, if you're a true fan of the Cowboys, you're going to be watching offensive line play. These guys have made a lot of changes up front. They drafted high on the offensive line, and they're going to want to see improvement over what they had a season ago.
Romo stepping up, and he gets hit as he throws, and again, that's Garay, and Walt Anderson signals that that pass is incomplete. Arm coming forward, and Garay, number 71, 5th year out of Boston College, even hurt a lot, hurt in college, hurt in the pros, but really came into his own last season.
I tell you, Antonio Garay, we first noticed him in the Indianapolis game a season ago when he took offensive linemen and just threw them into Peyton Manning. Here's Tyron Smith, 77, on the outside. A tremendous athlete, and they say once he gets his hands on people, it is over for them. More about the footwork for Tyron Smith.
3rd down and 4 on the Cowboys opening series. Romo swings into the outside, and that's dropped. And that's Dez Bryant, and they expect so much from him. 2nd year out of Oklahoma State, good rookie year, though he was hurt a lot. But they expect Bryant to not only emerge, but to develop into a major star in the future.
Well, and Dez Bryant made a couple of catches in practice the other day that were just phenomenal. And then he drops this one that's right in his hands. He was really amped up on the field before this game. He was just flying around everywhere, maybe a little too amped up.
Matt McBriar to punt. This is Brian Walters, who ran a kickoff back for a touchdown a week ago Thursday in San Diego, and Walters trying to win the job as the return man brings it back to the 43. Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, 3rd year for this beautiful building. And on 1st down, swinging to the outside but going nowhere. That's Abram Elam tackling Mike Tolbert. Elam, one of those guys picked up in the offseason from Cleveland, and there's no question Coach Ryan feels a lot better having him in the lineup.
What's this, Al? They're just coming from everywhere. You think we're getting ready to play the Super Bowl. This is the 2nd preseason game. And Rob Ryan said, Rex, you want to see what I'm going to do? I'll show you on national television. I'm not afraid.
Anytime a new defensive coordinator comes in, he likes to bring at least a couple of his own players, and Elam is one of those that Ryan was able to bring down here from the Browns. Rivers, very clean pocket, and then throws right on the money, and he hits Vincent Jackson, one of the league's premier receivers. Big contract dispute last year. Didn't play until late in November, then caught 3 touchdowns in a Thursday night game against San Francisco, and that one is good for 29 yards as he beats Orlando Scandrick.
And Scandrick has been having the best of the camps of any of the corners. The problem when you blitz all the time is that you have to be able to cover one-on-one, and if Cowboy fans will remember, last year that was the issue. They struggled with their man coverage on the outside. That time Rivers took advantage.
1st down from the shotgun, one-handed catch that time, made by Creighton, who earlier had dropped one with 2 hands. Second and 1. And they give it to the up back, and that is Jacob Hester to the 17-yard line. So you've got Matthews, you've got Tolbert, and you've got Hester, and Norv Turner knows the one guy he doesn't have is Darren Sproles, who could do so much, coming out of the backfield, catch the ball, good 3rd down guy, good return guy. But when Reggie Bush went to Miami, New Orleans jumped in and signed Sproles.
And Phillip Rivers said, as soon as I saw Reggie Bush sign with Miami, I went, uh-oh. And sure enough, here comes New Orleans and got his guy, and there just isn't anybody else on the roster right now that can do what Sproles did.
The Chargers kept most of the guys they wanted to keep. He would be the one big exception. To the outside, that's caught by Jackson, And Jackson is close to a first down inside the 10-yard line. He's tackled there by Alan Ball.
Well, anytime you play against DeMarcus Ware, who is probably the premier pass rusher in the league, you had better get the ball out of your hands quickly. That time, no blitz from the Cowboys, and Dombrowski, who's filling in for Marcus McNeil, does a pretty good job. But the key was Rivers is not going to sit back and hold that ball, got it out quickly.
First and goal from the 7. Mike Tolbert is the running back in this set. And off the play fake. And Rivers is going to get taken down by DeMarcus Ware. So the minute you start talking about a sack, he says, try this on for size.
Well, the problem is you can't try to block him with a tight end. If you do that, and Randy McMichael's a pretty good blocker, but there's just no way. Here's a guy that's had 20 sacks in the league, and this time Phillip Rivers found nobody, and you'll find out why now. Good coverage on the back end. They go zone instead of the man coverage after they hit that big play. Now they're playing more zones.
Second down and goal now from the 12-yard line. Tolbert, 11 touchdowns last year, and he loses the ball. The ball comes out at the 6-yard line. Big pile up at the 6-yard line. And it will be San Diego's ball. And let's take a look at this. This is, of course, challengeable if Dallas can take a look at this on the replay and are told,
that ball is
well,
definitely
that's outside.
out.
Right.
No question
That's
about
out.
it that ball is out.
And then you have to make sure that you recovered it too. Remember, if you want to challenge it, it has to be clear on the replay that it was recovered, and it looks like Clary recovered it for San Diego. So even though it may have been a fumble, there's no challenge necessary for Jason Garrett because he wasn't going to get the ball back anyway. Third down and goal. Another guy missing from that San Diego lineup tonight, the tight end Antonio Gates. And Rivers over the middle, and that is incomplete, and that is broken up over the middle by Barry Church. Tried to get it to Randy McMichael. It will be fourth down, and Nate Kading will come in to try to make it 3-0.
I know they brought over Abram Elam, but a lot of people think that Barry Church is going to be the guy ultimately that's going to win that safety position. He is just one of those guys, does well on special teams, good cover guy. And once again, you see no Antonio Gates, no Darren Sproles, and for Phillip Rivers, not quite as easy down here in the red zone.
25-yard chip shot for Nate Kading. And the first points of the game belong to the San Diego Chargers. Jerry Jones in his 23rd season as the Cowboys owner, president, and general manager, involved in every aspect of the team, and the man obviously behind the building of this stadium. Kickoff is fielded deep enough in the end zone by Owusu Ansah that he will down it there. And Tony Romo and his group will take over at the 20 on this Sunday night. Each team with a new defensive coordinator. Greg Minuski was with San Francisco under Mike Singletary for the last 2 years. Before that, he had been in San Diego as the linebacker coach on Marty Schottenheimer's staff. They got LeBoy and Spikes from San Francisco, and then Bob Sanders, a big signing if he can stay healthy. It's all about staying healthy. He was the defensive player of the year in 2007. He's a game changer. He's the same as Troy Polamalu if he can stay on the field, and that's what they're hoping. From the 20-yard line, Romo on first down. Backside screen, and getting away from the first tackle is Bryant, still on his feet, and he picks up about 5 yards. Here's Jones up to the 34-yard line. He goes, and that's a first down for Dallas.
When you have Felix Jones in the lineup, and remember Marion Barber now with the Chicago Bears, they're going to start one way and just bring it back the other way, as I drew it wrong on the screen. But you'll see the kind of athleticism that Felix Jones has. Unfortunately, on the tail end, you see him taking a big hit, and that has to be the concern. Tyron Smith, athletically, number 77, will never be outmanned. He's as good an athlete at right tackle as you're going to find in this league. His issue is just getting his technique down.
Romo gets a nice block to buy time, and that's his favorite target. That is Jason Witten with 94 receptions last season, on his way to the Pro Bowl for a 7th time.
And maybe the best sign was the blitz pickup by Felix Jones in the backfield. And that's never questioned whether or not Marion Barber was going to do that, but for Felix Jones, and that's Corey Leggett, the #1 pick at defensive end, that he upended right there to protect Tony Romo. Romo's going to like that a lot.
2nd and 4. San Diego leading 3-0 in the first quarter. And Romo with time again, and this time he hits Witten again. And Witten is taken down by Spikes, but not until he picks up a first down up at the 45-yard line.
You know, these big tight ends anymore, and Antonio Gates does this as well, is they just sort of get rebound position on you. He's not really going to be running open here. He just gets his big body in front, and there's nothing you could do about it unless you have 8-foot arms. You're not going to reach around and knock that thing down. And Jason Garrett was talking about Jason Witten. He said, make sure you guys talk about this guy a lot. He is something special.
From the 45-yard line, Bryant. Gain of 7. So Bryant, you'll recall, at Oklahoma State, got suspended, had contact with Deion Sanders then illegally as he was looking ahead to playing professionally, and then he dropped in the first round of the draft down to Dallas's spot. They took a chance on him. He was one of those guys, hey, you know, what was his attitude going to be like? Would he be mature enough? And he had some issues this offseason as well. But they think in the ultimate, this guy can be as good as anybody. 2nd and 3. Speed, hands, the whole thing. Romo with that patented shoulder shake, but that did not fool Eric Weddle, and that's one of the reasons Weddle may be the highest paid safety in the league. That shake by Romo, Weddle read it perfectly and picks it off for San Diego. After the Weddle interception, he's San Diego now from the 39-yard line. And this is Ryan Matthews out of Fresno State, their #1 pick last year. Back to the pick.
Well, Eric Weddle, they talk about just how good the awareness is on this guy. He's going to see the wide out to his side, run a deep route, and just going to turn back in, see him flip the hips there and make a great catch. You're talking to Greg Minuski, the defensive coordinator, who came in and watched all these games on tape. He said without question Eric Weddle was the best defensive player we had on our team. That's why 8 teams tried to get him in free agency.
2nd down and 6. And Rivers now throwing, and that's caught for a first down. Well, you can't open up the season in any better spot than Lambeau Field any given year. Now they're the champs, facing the champs from the year before, New Orleans against Green Bay. What a way to start the season.
You know, it's always good. You go there and you can sort of feel the tradition anyway, but then you walk in with the Lombardi Trophy. You think there might be a few happy people in Green Bay that night.
Off Lombardi Avenue as well. You've got Holmgren Way there, and someday they'll probably be in McCarthy Drive. And this is Matthews swinging to the outside, taken down by DeMarcus Ware as we go under 3 minutes left in the first quarter.
Well, it's just going to be a long night if you're going to keep trying to block DeMarcus Ware with a tight end. And one thing that we've seen already in this game is that Rob Ryan has shown a willingness to move Ware around. He's been over here on the left side of the defense almost as much as he's been on the right side. And that's sort of a trademark of Ryan defenses, regardless of which one you're talking about, dating all the way back to his dad.
2nd and 11. Matthews. You know, it's funny. Every time you have a new defensive coordinator, Chris, and we've seen it through the years, the first thing he says is we're going to be more aggressive. I mean, that's what the fans want to hear. I'm waiting for the first defensive coordinator to say we're going to be more passive. We're going to play a cover 5.
We're going to be docile out there. Yes.
Take our time and all of that. Of course, every defensive coordinator ever named to the position in a new role, in the new role for a team is going to say we're going to be more aggressive.
And it's easy to do when you have a guy like that on the outside, one of the truly dominant players, and of course Anthony Spencer on the other side and Jay Ratliff in the middle.
But you need good corners.
Yeah, that's the issue.
3rd down and 5. And into traffic, he threads the needle, and that time it's Randy McMichael. Again, McMichael playing a lot tonight. Antonio Gates is fine. He's had those foot problems through the years, the plantar fascia, the toe injury and all that. If this were a regular season game, Gates would be playing tonight.
Yeah, and he's just so desperately needed. Not that Randy McMichael is not a good player, but Antonio Gates is a Hall of Famer, and I don't think anybody is going to dispute that. And right now you've got Antonio Gates, who thinks that he's going to be okay. He practiced about 5 days in a row, said he could have played, but he also told me Father Time waits for nobody. I'm starting to feel it a little bit more here in my 9th year.
Especially with that foot injury just lingers and lingers. Cowboy Stadium, Arlington, Texas, the site of the Super Bowl last year. The Cowboys had hoped to play in it, but of course with that 6-10 record, they didn't come close. But they did average 29 points a game after Garrett took over at the midway point in the season. And on 1st down and 10, Jacob Hester makes the catch. The 3 losses for the Cowboys last year under Garrett were by a total of 7 points. And as you can see, points allowed back in 2010, they were 2nd best in the league, and last year 2nd worst. And last year a lot of tight defeats. And of course there was that Sunday night meltdown in the middle of the year in Green Bay when they got beat 45-7. Jerry Jones, the last thing he wanted to do was make a midseason switch, but he was compelled to do it. Josh Brent was moving, number 92 here. Walt Anderson, last time he was here, he was refereeing the Super Bowl.
Number 92, defense, 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
And so a gimme 1st down, the first penalty of the game. So it's been a crisply played first quarter, especially for a preseason game. And as Chris stated at the top, I mean, we've been watching enough preseason games. It's the same as it did last year, maybe even a little better.
I was going to say we've been watching too many preseason games, but go with what you said.
From the 20. Here's Rivers to the outside. Oh, and good contact there. That's Tolbert coming off a really good year. And Tolbert picks up the 1st down. And that will be the end of the first quarter here in Arlington, Texas, with the score San Diego 3, Dallas 0. And NBC's Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages. 3-0 San Diego, and the Chargers have it 1st and goal at the Dallas 10-yard line starting the 2nd quarter. And this is Tolbert to the 6-yard line. He goes. 2nd down and goal now.
It's really kind of interesting how the Chargers pick their running backs. They like fullback types that can also play running back. That time you had Jacob Hester, a fullback, lead blocking for Mike Tolbert, who's actually bigger than he is. And Ryan Matthews is the one guy they hope that he becomes the LT Darren Sproles combined, but he still has a little bit of learning to do to get to all those packages.
Number 1 pick out of Fresno State in the 10 draft. 2nd down and goal. Cowboys come, and the pass is caught in the corner of the end zone. That's Randy McMichael, who gets free and makes the catch for the touchdown. And this year, one of the rules is every scoring play gets reviewed. They'll take a look upstairs to confirm it. The replay official, who tonight is Dale Hamer, former NFL referee will take a peek and then show signal to Walt Anderson. Confirmed or needs to be reviewed.
The defense needs to be reviewed because they blew that coverage.
It almost looked like Rivers was ready to throw the ball away because of the pressure being put on that time.
I think that one's going to be confirmed.
Should be.
Yep. No
One,
need to
two,
review that.
got it.
Ball doesn't move.
Just confirmed from upstairs, and now Nate Kading to tack on the extra point. 48 seconds into the second quarter. Some of the artwork, Gene Jones, Jerry's wife, helping to collect all of that, and it's beautiful as you look around Texas Stadium and the Jones family looking on.
Pretty lady right next to her as well. It's Linda Michaels.
Good food over there.
I'm going to butter her up even if you don't.
There's a touchback, and you're going to see a bunch of those this year. The referee, we talked about, everything gets confirmed or reviewed. So there is the referee's pager. There it is, and that's what Walt Anderson just saw from Dale Hamer upstairs. Or if there was a question, remember the official upstairs, he cannot overturn the call. He can say, I want you to go over to the hood and review it. And Lombardi is looking down saying, what the hell is going on down there? I can't believe this stuff. From the 20-yard line on first down. And that's a good move by Ogletree to spin away from Cason and pick up the first down. Cason, one of the top corners in the league, developing into one, and Ogletree trying to win the job as the number 3 receiver.
Yeah, you really hit on the key for Ogletree. He knew this was a huge opportunity for him tonight without Miles Austin in here. He needs to make some of these plays because last week a couple of young bucks, Raymond Radway and Dwayne Harris, made big plays, and there was conversation about his losing his 3rd job, but he won't.
Here's Jones.
Wow.
And Felix Jones, another guy they need a big year from. Finally pushed out of bounds by Weddle into San Diego territory and out of bounds at the 44 after a gain of 22.
Everything's just about perfect here. You're going to get Jason Witten down. You're going to get Kyle Kozar around and Gronkowski with a kick out. That is just a perfectly run play, and Felix Jones makes one guy miss. Your only concern with Felix Jones is can he survive an entire season?
Jones escapes and then turns what would have been no gain into a first down. Darrell Gamble came blitzing through, and he got by number 49, the rookie from Georgia, and picks up 11 to move the chains again. 3 quick first downs in succession.
Well, you've got a Barry Sanders-like move this time by Felix Jones. You're going to get right here Darrell Gamble with nobody blocking him, and he just completely fans. The offensive line blocked so well on that side that it didn't matter. He had time to stop, go, restart, and there was still a huge hole.
Now Jones out, and Lanye Miller comes in, and they give the ball instead to the fullback this time. That's Chris Gronkowski, second year out of Arizona. You know, for years, of course, the past few, Chris, you had that 3-headed Dallas running attack with Marion Barber doing the heavy lifting, and then you had Jones coming along. He was the number 1 draft choice, and Tashard Choice is kind of the wild card. Barber gone now, Choice hurt, and Jones really has to be the main man.
Yeah, he does, and they drafted DeMarco Murray, who they're really high on, but they haven't seen him yet. He's been injured almost since the beginning of training camp, and so they are a little thin there. We're going to see some of the other backs as we go down the road here tonight.
And that was Tashard Choice on the sideline, 2nd and 7. Almost swings it out. Lanye Miller making the catch, and Miller picks up a first down. First-year player out of Fresno State. He backed up Ryan Matthews at Fresno. Some guys who are gone. Barber with Chicago. Colombo, the right tackle. He's with Miami. Leonard Davis, the guard, unsigned. Roy Williams, and they made that trade for Williams, and that's really come back to bite them. And Williams let go and signed with Chicago.
But the loss of Colombo and Davis, 2 very good players. But as you watch this Cowboys offensive line, much more athletic than they've been in years now.
From the 21-yard line. And they give it back to Jones. Quentin Jammer loses his helmet as Jones picks up 3 to the 18-yard line, 2nd down and 7.
And really an interesting conversation going on about who will play left guard for the Cowboys this season. Montre Holland came in, but he was a little out of shape and hurt his back, and he was supposed to be the guy, but Bill Nagy, David Arkin, Phil Costa, all of them in the conversation. Kyle Kozar moved from his left guard to his right guard to help Tyron Smith on that side. So a lot of shuffling going on up front.
Hudson Howe trying to find that right combination and have them in place 3 weeks from tonight at the Meadowlands against the Jets, 2nd and 7. And Jones biding his time, showing a lot of patience, getting the ball to the 14-yard line. And with 10:40 to go in the half, Gamble makes the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 3.
You know, it's really interesting to talk to some of the Cowboys guys about what happened when Marion Barber left. They feel like that Felix Jones is such a nice young man that he, didn't want to push Marion Barber. And yet now that he's gone, they said this offseason he really has just lifted his game. You can see his determination is different this season, and he really is starting to act like a #1 back. And tonight he's playing like it.
No more subservient role. 3rd down and 3. They swing it to the outside, and that's caught by Martellus Bennett. The other tight end, the bookended Jason Witten when they go too tight. Marcus Gilchrist, 2nd-round draft choice rookie out of Clemson, making the tackle, but not before they pick up a 1st down, 1st and goal.
Well, Tyron Smith, we've been talking about him, the #1 draft choice. Watch him working on the edge here against Darrell Gamble. We saw him in practice the other day, and they say once he gets locked onto somebody, it's case closed. Speaking of,
it was Bob Sanders closing the case of Felix Jones on the 9th play of this drive.
Well, that is Bob Sanders. That's what we were used to seeing with the Colts. That's what he was like when he was defensive MVP. And honestly, it's just good to see him back. He was a superstar player in this league. Watch him step up here in the hole. And the other thing this is allowing San Diego to do is leave Eric Weddle in the middle of the field to make interceptions like we've already seen.
Romo rolling right, and then it's dropped. He had Bennett, and Bennett didn't look it into his hands, and it will be 3rd down and goal. And Jason Garrett, who calls the plays, sends in his 3rd and goal. Right here.
That makes you sick. You make a perfect call. It's a gimme. It's a naked bootleg. No help outside. Your guy's wide open. Your Pro Bowl quarterback and talented tight end can't make the connection.
This drive began at the 20 after a touchback. This is the 11th play. Over 5 minutes of possession. San Diego leading 10-0. And with the play clock at 0. Romo springing away, trying to find somebody, and he does for the touchdown. Jason Witten. No surprise there. Witten just kept working and working and working and got free enough anyway.
Well, I tell you, that's what you expect out of one of the best tight ends in football. Right over here, just going to go to work. Completely covered, bracketed, inside, outside. Romo's going to buy a little time, work back to the inside. Just beautifully done. Tyron Smith now on the outside. Watch this. His guy moves down inside. Athletically, he's able to stay with him. And that's what bought Tony Romo a little extra time on that one. Romo and his athleticism will cover up for some of this young offensive line's mistakes with plays exactly like that.
Now Dan Bailey, the rookie from Oklahoma State, is in a kicking battle with David Beeler to win that job. The Cowboys Stadium, about $1.1 billion. Replacing the old Texas Stadium in Irving, 3rd year for this building as the kickoff is taken out of the end zone by Richard Goodman, who comes up to the 19-yard line. And that's going to do it for Rivers. Billy Volek will lead the Chargers when we come back. Do what?
Okay, good. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Wendell, what is that?
Hey, up all night long.
Put Chris on select. Come on.
It's an old Eagle.
Yeah. Long may you run, Neil Young. We're putting that one up before the night's done. All right.
Yeah, and then you're going right to Witten, right? Or right to the shot of Bromo. Yeah.
Have Chris pick it right up.
You want me to do it? Okay.
No wasted verbiage.
Show you the difference how quarterbacks talk to young receivers and old receivers. Dwayne Harris breaking the huddle is going to need a little added instruction from Tony Romo. Here, just going to sort of tell him exactly what I want you to do. Okay, there we go. Yeah, let's get that done. And then on the play, watch what he does with Jason Witten. Just go that way. Just give him a little bit of the thumb. Witten goes back. Touchdown.
Dwayne Harris scored 2 touchdowns in their preseason opener a week and a half ago against Denver. Billy Volek is the quarterback now, but the rest of that first team offense remains in the game. Ryan Matthews picks up 5. Volek, one of the higher paid number 2 guys, a guy who saw no action last year, led them to a huge playoff win when Rivers got hurt in Indianapolis a couple of years ago in postseason. And you can see when he is on, he's a guy who can do a lot of really good things for you.
And they are going to leave their starting tackles in the game as long as Billy Volek's in there. They do not want to lose him. He may not play long tonight because DeMarcus Ware is going to keep playing.
2nd and 6. Pressure is put on, and the pass for Matthews is not there. Brian McCann came on the corner blitz. It'll be 3rd down and 6 for San Diego.
Oh, Brian McCann's another guy that's going to get some packages made for him because of some of the good things that he does. One thing Rob Ryan likes to do is find out what these guys do well and emphasize that. He's really been impressed with Orlando Scandrick as a blitzer as well. But Rob is going to, he's got some creative stuff that he's going to be working out there. Our opening Sunday night game when he goes against Rex, we may set a world record for blitzes in that one.
Rex's twin brother, Buddy's son, 3rd down and 6. And Volek fires over the middle and throws a strike into the hands of Malcolm Floyd, taken down by Sensabaugh. Floyd a little slow in getting up, but he picks up the 1st down.
Well, Brian McCann has to be sick on this one. He had absolutely perfect coverage. But these San Diego quarterbacks know that they have big, tall receivers, and they take advantage of that fact. That time was Gerald Sensabaugh who got the shot, and last thing in the world that Phillip Rivers wants to see is one of his star wideouts who they really never had together all last year limping off the field. I'm sure he's probably going to go over to coach and go, okay, that's enough for him.
Yeah, Floyd holding his lower back as he comes out, so Richard Goodman comes into the game. Tolbert is the tailback in this set, halfway through the quarter. And Volek throws it underneath. And that is caught there by Jacob Hester, 4th year out of LSU, fills a lot of roles. DeMarcus Ware making the tackle.
You know, with Darren Sproles not here anymore, you're going to see, I think, on 3rd down more of Mike Tolbert than you're going to see Ryan Matthews because he understands pass protection. He's going to come back over this way and make this blitz pickup. He saw the blitz coming. And as a quarterback, as much as you like throwing touchdown passes, you like not getting hit even more.
2nd and 7 from the 43-yard line.
Marcus Ware walking around in the middle. Spencer on the same side.
Only a 3-man rush, penalty flag. Tolbert, for the moment, will pick up the 1st down. Flag down at the line of scrimmage.
Well, that was wild looking at that defense at the start. They were just up wandering around. Anthony Spencer, DeMarcus Ware, they were everywhere.
False start.
Illegal formation. Offense. Number 62 was uncovered. It's a 5-yard penalty. It's still second down.
Different penalty, but 5 yards, and it negates the play.
Look at this play now. They're going to have Spencer over here on Ware's side. Ware going over, then Spencer in the middle, and everybody's sort of shuffling around. Ultimately, they're all going to be in a gap somewhere where they start. That's what's the hard part if you're an offensive lineman. So Malcolm Floyd over on the sideline, I'm sure that they're checking him out. Can't imagine we're going to see him the rest of the night.
Second down and 12. Back to the 38-yard line. And Volek throws this one to the outside. Caught by Goodman.
Well, here's a few of the blitzes that we've seen so far tonight from Rob Ryan. Danny McCray, the special team star, has a little package built just for him because they feel like they should reward him, and he gets a shot on Phillip Rivers. And Abram Elam, the new safety, came over from Cleveland with Rob Ryan. Sneaks through the backside gap, but this is what ended a lot of the blitzes. Man coverage against these big-time receivers. You have to be able to cover if you're going to blitz like that, and that one slowed down the blitzing from Rob Ryan.
Third down and 5. There was a lot of action up front, but no flags, and it's caught by Randy McMichael, and he'll take the ball into Dallas territory and pick up a first down. Abram Elam making the stop.
Well, if you want to know why that I say guys are the best pass rushers in the league, watch Dombrowski right here working against DeMarcus Ware. On roller skates, right back into Volek. You've got it off just in time. I tell you, you set up, you try and get ready for a speed move, and all of a sudden he hits you with that bull rush, and you just start going backwards.
Mentioned again, their first unit left tackle Marcus McNeil not playing tonight, and that pass is intercepted at the 16-yard line by Gerald Sensabaugh. Intended for Richard Goodman down the sideline, and the pick for the Dallas Cowboys. And we're back before the commercial. The interception by Sensabaugh, but I'm not sure that's going to stand because we've been looking at the replay, and San Diego has challenged, and we think that this one will come back. Take a look here.
This is the old toe heel rule. So his toe is going to get down. That one's clean. Watch this. Toe down, but the heel rocks down on the ground. So even though the toe hits first, it is the foot rocking down on the line that is going to make that an incomplete pass, believe it or not. I used to always fight that rule and go, you got to be kidding me. My toes are down. Why in the heck does it matter what happens after that? That should be complete. That will be ruled incomplete. I've never quite understood it, but that's the rule in the NFL as I understand it. So we'll see if I have any idea whatsoever what I'm talking about.
Walt Anderson is looking at it again, and it's pretty clear. I mean, he has possession, 1 foot down, then the toe down, but the heel out. And so this should come back. Meanwhile, take a look at Volek on this play and what he does with the football on his way back to the pocket.
I've never seen this before. Dries his hand, takes his hand off the ball, dries his hand, and then throws it. Every once in a while, I think I've seen everything there is to see in football, and then I show up for another game. Poor Gerald Sensabaugh, he makes an unbelievable play, and I think it's going to get overturned.
It is. Cowboy defense is already back out on the field, so they know what's going to happen here.
After reviewing the play, the pass is incomplete. The defender's right heel was out of bounds. It'll be second down and 10 at the 46-yard line.
Going to make you a back judge.
Please don't. Well, that was some play anyway for Sensabaugh. It won't go in the record books, but it'll go in Rob Ryan's book. He'll remember that one. Sensabaugh is a guy they say he flashes greatness, then he can lose concentration and give up a play, and then he makes a great play. And they really feel like that if he could ever just focus and get that consistency going, that he could be really a star safety in this league. That one's too bad. That was a nice play.
It's going to make it 2nd down and 10 now from the Dallas 46-yard line. 10-7 San Diego. Rivers tonight was 8 of 11. Volek is 4 out of 5. And the handoff goes to Ryan Matthews to the 41-yard line. And let's get an update on Malcolm Floyd. We go to Michelle Tafoya. Michelle.
Well, Malcolm Floyd has gone into the Chargers locker room. He is out for the night with a concussion that he got on this play. And Al, as you know, the NFL real sensitive to the concussion issue, and this offseason introduced new protocols. So I'm sure the Chargers are following that. Floyd in the locker room, done for the night.
So there is a new protocol. It's a funny thing in a sense, ironically funny. He was holding his lower back as he went off the field, and it turns out to be a concussion. Could be both. 3rd down and 5, and this is Richard Goodman making the catch. Meanwhile, you can see where Floyd sustained the concussion as his head hits the turf.
I will say 2/3 of the time that I got a little dingy on the field, it was exactly that. They pin your arms against your side and you try to hold your head up, but by doing that it actually creates a whipping kind of a sensation on the ground, and it's tough. I tell you, the league is doing everything they can, though. You know, they basically have taken the kickoff out of the game just because they don't want to come up with more concussions, and that was a pretty bold step right there in favor of trying to make the game safer.
Almost every rule change that's been implemented the last 2 years has been about player safety. Now it's 4th down and 1, and San Diego, before they go for it, Volek's going to take a timeout. 3 minutes to the half. Chargers up by a field goal. Cowboys Ring of Honor announced over the weekend. New inductees: Larry Allen, the longtime great guard. Charles Haley came here during the Super Bowl years from San Francisco, and the longtime wide receiver back in the 70s and early 80s, Drew Pearson. And there's your one-man selection committee.
Yeah, they asked if Jerry Jones was nominated. He said he looked in the mirror and said, nope.
Meanwhile, on 4th and 1, San Diego going for it, and they give the ball to Jacob Hester on a burst straight ahead, and he appears to have the 1st down and does.
Well, one of the top offensive linemen for San Diego, and they came back this year intact. Nick Hardwick, the center, he is just going to drive Olshansky right out of there, and just enough for one of these big backs to grind it in there. They've done something pretty unique here. They brought back their top 8 offensive linemen for continuity only. They just felt like that it was no reason to try and bring in somebody new because they wouldn't know our offense in such a short period of time.
Volek rolling and throwing into traffic, and a flag comes in. Richard Goodman, the intended receiver, he's been playing in place of Floyd, and Barry Church had the coverage.
Yeah, Barry Church going for the ball, but he kind of came through the receiver. That's going to be the discussion. Was he going for the ball? Did he get there too early or not?
Pass interference, number 42, defense. 1st down.
Yeah, I thought this was a good call. You're going to see the contact knock the receiver off the ball there. And so you have to give the receiver a chance. If you're in sort of a 50-50 position, they probably don't make that call. But when you're going through the back of the receiver, you almost have to make it.
So that penalty is worth 20 yards, makes it 1st and 10 at the 15. Ticking down to the 2-minute warning. And this is Matthews busting tackles. And does he get into the end zone? No signal yet. They're going to spot him at the 1-yard line. And the coach would have to challenge this. This is not a scoring play. If it's a scoring play, if it's ruled a touchdown, there's no challenge. But this is challengeable.
1st down at the 1-yard line.
Oh, I think he might have scored with that one. The discussion along the sideline was, when did he go out of bounds? And it looked like he had a foot down as he extended that ball. over the pylon, and I'm sure Norv is going to want to give Matthews a nice highlight to show around the country.
Warning.
Well, we come to the 2-minute warning, and he will challenge it. 10-7 San Diego. So Turner is challenging. We think he's going to win this challenge. We think it'll be a touchdown. It's a very interesting call here, too, in the sense that we've gone to the 2-minute warning, but the play happened on the front side of the 2-minute warning. Had it happened inside 2 minutes, it wouldn't be challengeable. It would be reviewable from upstairs. We think he gets the foot down, the ball over the goal line for the touchdown. At worst, it's going to be 1st and goal at the 1.5-inch line.
Yeah, the first angle looked like a no-brainer, didn't it? It looked like no question about it. The second one, I was a little dicier as to whether he got the football across there or not. But remember, they can use multiple angles, so they can use one to see that the foot was down, and then if they feel like the other angle is better to see if the ball is over the goal line, they can do that. Yeah, once it crosses over the pylon, that is a touchdown. Remember, you only have to break the front edge of the plane of the goal line. So the minute you cross any white, that is a touchdown. You don't have to cross completely over the white line. And the pylon signifies, it just looks like from that angle it was pretty clear cut.
In the old days, they would say the goal line extends around the world. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I've tried to forget that one.
At least to Lubbock here.
Oh, boy. Walt's getting a few interesting calls here. He's preseason, a few challenges.
After reviewing the play, the runner was inbound and the ball went over the pylon. It is a touchdown. San Diego is not charged with a timeout, and because this is their second successful challenge, they are awarded one additional challenge during the game. The clock will be put at 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
So we'll have another 2-minute warning. It goes back to 2:04 because that's where the challenge came in before they wound the clock down to the 2-minute warning. So you win your first 2 challenges, you do get a third. And Jason Garrett has watched his team on the short end come up on the short end of both challenges tonight. The other was the interception by Sensabaugh that got overturned and led to San Diego retaining possession of the ball and going in for a score. Now you've got this one resulting in a touchdown. Nate Kading for the extra point, and San Diego's lead is now 17-7.
Hey, you just wonder if all the practice these two teams spent together, Norv had a chance to put a little game plan together, probably watching all those blitzes. You know, they came in here and practiced together for 2 days, and Norv said the first day was like, oh my goodness, they're just firing everything at us in all directions. But Phillip Rivers thought it was great practice. You know, this team's gotten off to such slow starts, and you never really see that from another team in preseason. But they really felt like this was really beneficial, and their hope is they don't get off to their traditional slow start.
Well, you get tired of banging on each other, so they come down to Texas the other day. They got 1 day outside. Then they were inside here on Friday. Then yesterday they worked out here by themselves. And tonight's the game, and then they go home and go to Arizona next weekend, then have San Francisco at home. Their opener is September the 11th in San Diego against Minnesota. Chris talking about the terrible starts they get off to or have in the past. This year it's set up, they have 3 of 4 at home. Now the road game is very tough at New England. The home games are Minnesota, Kansas City, and Miami.
They'll be favored in all those.
Should be, even though Kansas City is the reigning division champ. And that kickoff will go through the end zone off the foot of Ricky Schmidt.
You know,
and there'll be one play from scrimmage here because after the kickoff here and the beginning of the drive will not start the clock until John Kitna takes the snap and does whatever he's going to do with it. So that's it for Romo tonight. John Kitna comes in after Tony had gone 8 of 12, and Kitna did a nice job last year when Romo got hurt, led them to a number of wins. He got hurt himself in the next to last game against Arizona, but the longtime Lion and Seahawk and Bengal is a good number 2 quarterback, and he hands the ball off to Lanye Miller for a gain of 4. And now we come to the official 2-minute warning. We want to acknowledge the passing last month of Myra Kraft. You know, they always say, and it's a cliche, they made the world a better place. She really made the world a better place. People have no idea. I mean, literally, the thousands of lives in this country and in Israel and elsewhere that she touched.
I know you and Linda were very close with her, and it had to be tough. Spent some time in Israel with them, right?
We did in March, and she knew she was sick at that point too, and she came back and she went into the hospital, and it was, you know, in and out of the hospital over the ensuing 3 or 4 months. And somehow, you know, Bob was able to still go through all of the negotiations and was a huge factor in them as well.
And you know why? Because Myra said, go do your job. And she was so unselfish with everything that she did. Even to the very end, she said, you go do your job, I'm fine. And she did that for a lifetime.
Well, there are people who, you know, they do great things and they give away a lot of money. And then there are people who give the money away and actually do all of the hands-on stuff that goes with it. That was Myra.
I can remember one time with me, I had a particularly tough meeting with Robert. I won't talk about what it was about, but it was not warm and fuzzy. I come outside and Myra was so warm and so gracious. And I said, do you ever talk to your husband ever? But she was just a wonderful lady and will be greatly missed, not just in New England, but by NFL families everywhere.
Definitely. So Kitna with a timeout here with 1 minute and 4 seconds remaining, hitting Ogletree. You're going after about $1.20, aren't you?
Would
Right.
be severely overpaid too.
Here's Matt McBriar to punt. Booming kick. Back to the 13. Here's Brian Walters trying to win that job as the run back guy with Darren Sproles gone. Flag is thrown on the run back with 61 seconds remaining.
Hey, Rich Bisacci, the special teams coach in San Diego, has already made a difference, and Brian Walters is one of those guys that he really likes.
In the return, illegal blocking back number 47, receiving team. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Penalty on Alex Albright. There he is. He was at Tampa Bay. And when you have the kind of year that San Diego had with their special teams, somebody pays the price, and it's always going to be the special teams coach, and he was a good one. Steve Crosby had a lot of good seasons there, but he went. They brought Bisaccia in. The funny thing about them last year is that a lot of it had to do with the snapping and coverage. I mean, they've got a great place kicker in Kading, a great punter in Cyphers, but they lost David Bin, their long snapper, on opening day, and that just started a cascade. And that's why they were 2-5 at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it was really remarkable to see them. They had 4 official blocked punts.
There's been 40 years old, 18 years in the league. They had 4 long snappers after he got hurt on opening day, but he's back. He's been with them so long, he played in their Super Bowl after the '94 season against San Francisco. Tolbert to the 21-yard line. So San Diego will be content to, you would think, just to run the clock out here at the end of the half.
You know, Mike Tolbert gives them a little bit of an element. Norv Turner's plan has always been, it's the same thing when he was here with Dallas. He's going to pound it, and then throw it deep to these receivers. And certainly, Mike Tolbert gives them the pounded element. Then Matthews with a little bit of the speed. It's a good combination.
Of course, every time you say that they'll just run the clock out, they go to the air, even though that's underneath the Tolbert with 16 seconds. Then it will be 2nd down and 10. Norv Turner, he was the coach at Washington when Dan Snyder bought the team. and then he was the coach at Oakland for a couple of seasons, and then to San Diego, and he inherited that team that Marty Schottenheimer took to a 14-2 record but lost in the AFC Championship game. It was actually a divisional game. They didn't even make it to the championship game. And Norv looking for that postseason success that's been so elusive in San Diego. Kneel down will end the first half. Not a badly played first half either.
No, it was good.
Halftime. Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas, as we get set to start the second half. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya on Sunday Night Football. And we'll be with you every Sunday, of course, during the regular season. Next week, another preseason game, Saints at Oakland, and all the way through Sunday, the 5th of February in Indianapolis for Super Bowl 46. Ricky Schmidt will be kicking off for San Diego. Nate Kading, of course, is their guy, but Schmidt getting in some work in camp and during the preseason. Raymond Radway will run back the kick for the Dallas Cowboys. 17-7 San Diego on this Sunday night.
Watch this Radway. He can fly.
But not going to be able to fly out of the back of the end zone. Another touchback here, and the ball. New Cowboy quarterback is the number 3 quarterback, Stephen McGee. Hands the ball to Lanye Miller, and we'll check in with Michelle.
Well, Al spoke with Jason Garrett walking off at halftime, and he too liked the play of his offensive line. He said they contributed a lot to Felix Jones having such a good half. But, you know, Jason Garrett told us on Friday he's looking for a young wide receiver to emerge, and that's what he's going to be watching here in this second half. He said we're thin at wide receiver, and if one of these young guys doesn't emerge, we're going to have to address it another way. Meanwhile, Norv Turner really liked his running backs, and he said his offensive line helped them a lot, but he got to see his running backs play. He thought his starters were, quote, off the charts. Ryan Matthews, he was especially happy. 7 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle, as Bennett makes the catch, a little bit short of the first down. So Norv with plenty to be happy about in that first half.
Well, certainly offense has never been the issue in San Diego. They've scored 25 points or more, or averaged that for 7 straight years. That is remarkable. And this is a team that's going to score points. Last season, their defense matched their effort, and then it was the special teams that got them. So I don't think many people have many questions about San Diego's offensive abilities.
3.5 yards from the 30, and McGee on a straight drop throws and converts here. And that's one of the guys they're looking to see who can provide some depth. Jesse Holley, who's a very good special teams player. He's tackled by Sharice Wright, and he picks up a first down for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, Jesse Holley is one of the guys that's been around here, and he's in competition now with Raymond Radway and Dwayne Harris to keep his job. And that's Sharice Wright, who's one of the draft picks for San Diego. They really feel like that they have a group of corners that they just haven't had in the past. Greg Minuski said, I have never had the luxury of being defensive coordinator with this many talented corners, so they feel pretty good about it.
And a couple of really good safeties as well on first down. Lanye Miller taking the handoff from McGee. Stephen McGee was picked in the draft in 09. He was the 4th round selection from Texas A&M, so he comes from College Station here. And right now he's the number 3 guy behind Romo and Kitna, but eventually he could move up to the number 2 spot, they hope, by next year. And then who knows from there. Tony going into his 9th year, and they think that McGee can do it. McGee saw some action last year. In fact, he led them to a closing day victory as a starter in Philadelphia after Kitna got hurt.
False start, number 76, offense. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Sam Young.
If I'm not mistaken, I think McGee has led them on 3 straight sort of comeback victories. They didn't win, I take that back, final drives. They didn't win against Arizona, but he did throw a touchdown pass that gave them the lead late, and then Arizona went back the other way. And then last week in the exhibition game, turned around and drove them right down the field for the win with 15 seconds to go. So certainly has some ability.
Well, we're crossing all borders to make that a 3-game streak, aren't we?
All borders.
Second down and 12, and the pass is incomplete. He did come off the bench in that game at Arizona. That was that Saturday night game at the end of last year. That was a beauty in Glendale. And then the following week when he took on Philadelphia, that was at a time when Philadelphia had already clinched everything, so they had nothing at stake in that game.
Well, now it's time to start watching a little personnel. Number 94, Corey Legent, the draft pick, is going to be a designated pass rusher, and they hope they get a little bit more out of him than that. People surprised that a 34 team drafted him, but the first plan with him in San Diego is to turn him into a pass rusher on 3rd downs instead of that base defensive end.
Blitz on 3rd down and 12, and a wobbly pass is caught. So McGee gets hit, but he gets the pass away. Martellus Bennett makes the catch, and the Charger DB, Steve Gregory, the safety, is still down on the turf.
Boy, what a play by Lanye Miller, the back. You want to make a football team? Block like this. Not only did he make the block, but he saw where the guy was coming and just put him on his backside. That is about as good as you can get. Here comes Dante Hughes off the edge, and there he goes. That is Lanye Miller's best effort of the preseason so far.
Gregory is down. He got hit by the 6'7", 275-pound Bennett. Dallas Cowboys at the 44 after Gregory goes to the bench, getting hit on the last play. And this is Kevin Ogletree making the catch, and that's a gain of 12 and a Dallas first down.
I tell you, I really like what I'm seeing out of Ogletree tonight. He knew tonight was on. It was an important night for him. He needed to hold off some of these younger receivers. Of course, he has such a big advantage over the rest of these guys because they haven't been to the OTAs and the mini camps, and of course Ogletree's been here, so he knows this offense. Personally, I'd be stunned if Ogletree isn't the 3rd receiver just because of his experience and what you need to know playing that slot.
3 catches for him tonight, 27 yards. Flag. And McGee down the sideline, and he hits John Phillips, who looked so good in 09 and then tore up his knee in Canton last year and missed the entire season. And now on the comeback trail for Dallas. Flag at the inception of the play.
Illegal formation offense. Number 16 was covering up number 89. That's a 5-yard penalty. It's still first down.
Well, one reason he may have gotten open is that Holly was covering him up.
Well, I hate that when that happens, you know, but what he basically means is the wide receiver was on the line of scrimmage with a tight end to that side, which you cannot do. You can see right there, you got 1 on, 2 on, so that means the tight end is ineligible at that point.
Back to the 38-yard line. First down and 15. And again, Lanye Miller.
You know, a lot of guys up front with a chance to still be that starting left guard. And here's David Arkin, a 4th-round draft pick. The feeling is that Bill Nagy had a little bit of an advantage over him because he came out of Wisconsin instead of David Arkin, who came out of a smaller school in Missouri State. So just that experience at the big-time program gave Nagy a little bit of an edge, but it is still wide open at that left guard.
2nd and 14. McGee under pressure, but he finds Miller, and some nice running here by Lanye Miller, taking the ball to the 22-yard line, and another penalty,
Holding,
however.
number 78, offense. 10-yard penalty, still second down.
Jeremy Parnell, number 78.
Jeremy Parnell, former basketball player. But let's go back and take another look at Arkin, because he is the guy that may well be there on starting day. Of course, there were a few rumors flying around this week that maybe Andre Gerard, the all-pro center, would end up moving over to guard, and Phil Costa, who's been doing a nice job at center, who's in there right now, as a matter of fact, maybe he plays center. So it is wide open what's going to happen, but a lot of shuffling up front for this Cowboys team. But I tell you, I like the moves. I think everything they've done is just added athleticism out there.
2nd and 24. The screen. Miller tackled at the 48-yard line. Let's go to Michelle again.
Well, I'm with Phillip Rivers, and Coach Norv Turner told me at halftime he thought the starters were lights out, played great. But you guys are notorious for getting off to slow starts. What has to happen for this season to be different?
Well, I think it's a mindset, and we've had it every year, but we just haven't followed through with it. But we've had a great camp so far, and I think from an offensive standpoint, we just got to take care of the football. And we've been able to do that now through 2 halves of preseason ball. And if we don't turn it over, we're going to win a lot of games.
Now, during the lockout, speaking of workouts, you organized a lot of these team workouts. Aside from the X's and O's and the conditioning factor, what did those do for this team?
Yeah, it just brings you together. You know, the more you're around each other, the more you're with one another. You care about each other more, and you play for each other more. You know, we got to play for one another, and I think our guys understand that. We have a close team, and we're on this journey together, and we've fallen short here in years past, and a lot of us have been here 7, 8, 9, 10 years now, and we're hungry and determined to make a run.
Malcolm Floyd went out with a concussion earlier in the game. How concerned are you about him right now?
Yeah, that's too bad for Malcolm. Hopefully he'll be all right, because obviously you saw the play he made. He makes big plays like that for us. He's done it now for 7 years, so hopefully he's okay.
Phillip, thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Michelle. There was a flag on that last play. It was 3rd down and 24. And now you've got the penalty, which is a defensive foul, and that's going to mean a 1st down. So you go from 3rd and 24, 5-yard call, but in effect, new life, because you're at the 42-yard line, 1st and 10.
Tis that time of the game now. You're starting to see more of the mistakes made, and again, because they're in such a rush to get the veterans ready, a lot of these younger players don't get the reps.
And the ball is loose at the 39-yard line, and the Chargers are all over it as Lanye Miller loses it and San Diego recovers it. Cowboys get a big break on the penalty and then cough it right back. Stephen Cooper making the tackle, dislodging the football. In the blue shirt is Dean Spanos, the president of the team. In the yellow shirt is A.J. Smith, the general manager of the San Diego Chargers. And Dean was one of the owners who was very involved. He was at almost every one of those meetings regarding the CBA. He, Jerry Jones, Bob Kraft, Jerry Richardson, John Mara. Catch made here by Brian Walters, and happy birthday to Susie Spanos. I promised Dean, you got to get that in, right?
Oh, very good. You
There
don't you don't acknowledge your wife on television, but you take care of everybody else. It's beautiful.
Why not?
There you go.
Just tweet me.
There you go. We also saw A.J. Smith in that shot there, the general manager, who I think did the right thing this football season. He focused on re-signing his own players. I think there were 16 transactions for the San Diego Chargers this year, 12 of those re-signing his own guys. The focus on continuity, because they simply didn't have time to teach the system to a bunch of new players.
And what a difference a year makes here. In this particular case, as the catch is made and the yard shy of the 1st down is Jordan Todman. Last year at this time, and you've got maybe a horse collar with a flag coming down, Ori Lemon, number 58.
Personal foul, horse collar tackle, number 58, defense. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
Last year, if you recall, Chris, this was the Chargers started the year as a team in flux. They had come off a tough playoff loss, a game that they feel they should have won at home against the Jets. Then in the offseason, they have a problem with Vincent Jackson, and he doesn't sign till November. They've got a problem with Marcus McNeil. You got all kinds of consternation going on. Now you lose on opening day in Kansas City because your special teams go south on you. You start 2-5, and it's a mess. This year, they're the good chip lollipop.
And nobody's talking about them. They are thoroughly enjoying having the conversation shifted to Philadelphia, as are the Cowboys.
Here's Todman to the 36, and even in their conference, I mean, everybody's talking about New England and how good have they looked for whatever preseason means. I mean, the Patriots could not have looked any better than they have in their 2 games. And you also have, you know, the Colts, of course. Here's Chargers under Turner. Those very slow starts in 08. Remember, they were 4-8, and then they won the last 4, beat Denver on closing night, and beat Indianapolis in overtime in a game that turned out to be Tony Dungy's swan song with the Colts. Here's a backside screen. And this is Jordan Todman with room to roam. And all the way to the end zone goes Todman for a San Diego touchdown. But a flag is down. For the moment, 36 yards. And you can tell by Norv's expression what the end result of this is going to be.
As often happens on this screen.
Ineligible player number 60 of the offense. Downfield prior to the pass. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Rookie guard Colin Baxter out of Arizona.
The problem on this play is it takes so long to develop that your quarterback's going to end up rolling away, and the lineman just, it's not a screen timing kind of a feel to them. They're used to that play happening much quicker, and then all of a sudden they ease down the field a little bit, and Norv used up one of his good ones there. They call that the old shoot screen. You know, like you roll out that way and then you go, oh shoot, they're throwing it back the other way.
You say shoot in preseason.
Correct.
2nd and 13. And that pass is incomplete. Intended for Goodman from Volek. 3rd and 13. Here's Michelle again.
Yeah, with Eric Weddling, what an offseason for you. You were made the highest paid safety in the NFL, and then they decided to bring in Bob Sanders, a former Defensive Player of the Year. How has it been integrating Sanders into this defense?
Oh, it's been amazing bringing in Bob. Obviously, everyone knows what kind of player he can be, and it's exciting to bring him in. It's going to free me up and make our defense as a whole better than we were last year, and that's what we're striving to be. We're striving to be the best in the league, and then bringing him in, TK, bringing that mentality, bringing in veteran professionals, it's only going to make this team and this defense better.
Well, and for so many years, as you know, you've been with the San Diego Chargers for 5 seasons, and there have been expectations. The slow starts, well documented. What can make this season different?
Being humbled last year, obviously not making the playoffs really hurt us to the core. You know, I made the playoffs every year, and for us not to make it, the expectations, it's made us humble, it's made us hungry, and we're just living in the now. Honestly, we take day by day. We're getting the most out of each day. We're not looking ahead. We're not looking what the outside perception thinks of us. We really don't care. It's what the inside thinks, what we believe, and just getting the most out of now. And if we could do that and take that approach throughout the year, I think we'll be all right.
Eric, thanks for the time.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. 4th down now for San Diego. And Cypress's punt is angled beautifully toward the near sideline, and Jason Garrett was under Norv Turner here when he was a backup to Troy Aikman, and for a while Wade Wilson as well. And Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator with the Super Bowl 1993 champion Dallas Cowboys, and Garrett was here for 7 seasons, and then Norv was able, with his success here, to get the head coaching job of the Washington Redskins. And now we come full circle here to Turner in San Diego, and Garrett in his first full season. They got rid of the interim tag after we went 5-3 last year over the second half of the season, and on January 6th of this year, Jerry Jones announcing that Jason Garrett was his man. That had been speculated upon for a number of years, but you didn't know until the very end. From the 2. Here's Lanye Miller, and as you well know, Chris, Garrett was thought of as the successor at one point, maybe even to Bill Parcells here, and then Wade Phillips got the job, and then Garrett came very close, and in fact might have even had either Baltimore and or Atlanta, the head coaching jobs. Decided to stay here, and then his star began to wane a little bit. People began to wonder, hey, did he make a big mistake?
Well, I'll tell you, I saw the difference in the Cowboys more in practice when I would go to their practice under Jason Garrett than I saw it even on the field, even though that was good. They were much crisper. They woke up. He got after them a little bit. They were more physical, and it paid off on the field. And now you hope that Rob Ryan gives you that same sort of a burst of energy on the defensive side. To me, the big question is, can Rob Ryan put all this stuff in time for the regular season? Remember, any of these teams that have new coordinators, and you heard Tony Dungy talk about it at halftime, they have a lot on their plate between the beginning of training camp and that opening day, especially with all the packages that Rob Ryan wants to get in.
And there's little doubt that Rex Ryan, the twin brother, should be able to win that matchup on opening night because of exactly what you just stated. 3rd down and 7. And that pass is incomplete, and another flag is thrown. So a relatively penalty-free first half, and then it would figure with the 3rd unit guys in for the most part. Laundry all over the joint.
Pass interference, number 29, defense, 1st down.
Sharice Wright, rookie out of USC.
3rd-round draft pick, so a guy that was expected to play. And here's Radway, who's one of the fastest guys on the field tonight. Ball a little late getting there, and Wright a little early getting on Radway. Good call by the officials. A lot of corners back there, though, for the Chargers this year. It's going to allow them to blitz a little bit more than maybe what they have in the past if Minuski can get all his packages in as a new defensive coordinator.
Rookie running back is Philip Tanner, and it's Tanner with a nice burst out of Middle Tennessee State. Free agent pickup.
Yeah, Al, you know, I watch a lot of tape because I have no life whatsoever, even in preseason. And this kid, Philip Tanner, impressed me more than any of the backs other than Felix Jones. He has a patience getting to the hole, and that sounds strange. You think you want your running back running as hard as they can all the time, but he lets plays develop like an old pro would, and then he has a nice little burst through there. I think that this is a keeper right here.
Take Holly out to dinner once in a while, would you, instead of watching tape?
I really should.
2nd and inches from the 26-yard line.
Get up! Get up!
And this time they wrap him up, and Tanner goes down at the line of scrimmage. Last year, with the Cowboys starting 1-7 under Wade Phillips, and again Garrett was still the offensive coordinator, averaging 20 points a game, which is about the league average, but 19 turnovers, and then under Garrett 29 points a game in those last 8, and they cut the turnovers almost in half.
Yeah.
And there's Wes Phillips, the son of Wade, who remains on the staff, and Wade, of course, is now in Houston under Gary Kubiak as the Texans defensive coordinator. Sean Chappis, number 45.
Kind of an interesting situation for the Cowboys at their fullback position as well. A lot of guys getting a look. Chappis, a draft pick this year, but they moved a linebacker, Isaiah Greenhouse, over because he looked good on special teams and was knocking people around there. So they switched him from linebacker to fullback and said, let's see what he looks like, and he looked pretty good.
A minute and a half to play in the 3rd quarter with San Diego up 17-7. And McGee. And he throws that one incomplete. Party area. A lot of standing room here. Over 100,000 can fit into Cowboys Stadium. And they've gone into 6 figures on a couple of occasions. 2nd down and 10 from the 38-yard line. Nothing. It's Vaughn Martin making the tackle. Lanye Miller with the carry.
Yeah, Vaughn Martin's a guy that they really wanted to get a pretty good look at tonight. Felt like he and Cam Thomas were the two guys that really could vie for some more playing time for the San Diego Chargers if they stepped up. They both have talent. They both they like what they see in practice, but they felt like until they saw it in a game, they weren't going to give them that opportunity. So that play helps.
3rd and 13 from the 25-yard line. And McGee off his back foot and reaching up and hauling it in is Manuel Johnson down the sideline. First time they have called his number tonight. Second-year man out of Oklahoma, a 7th-round pick in 09, good for 28 yards.
I tell you, the battle for the 3rd wide receiver is getting more interesting all the time. Tonight it's been some of the older vets stepping up, Jesse Holley and now Manuel Johnson, who's also been with the Cowboys for a little while, and this is not going to be an easy decision. Do you keep some of the raw rookies, or do you stay with guys who know your system a little bit better on the outside?
From the 47-yard line. And the pass is incomplete. And sometimes, I guess, Chris, in that circumstance where, you might have two guys vying for the 4th position at wideout, I mean, who plays special teams better could be factored in too.
Absolutely. It's interesting you bring that up because Tashard Choice has a little competition out there this year too, and he does not play special teams. And so the thought is that if one of these other guys, Lanye Miller, Philip Tanner, whatever, are better special teams players, that could well be a competitive spot there too.
2nd down and 10. Tanner swings to the outside. Shows a little pop, gets taken out of bounds, and that takes us to the end of the 3rd quarter. End of 3 in Texas. 17-7 San Diego. Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya. Sunday Night Football. 4th quarter, San Diego up 17-7, and it's 3rd and 2 from the San Diego 40-yard line, and the catch is made for a first down by the tight end John Phillips.
I tell you, Stephen McGee is making an impression on me tonight. I watched him last week, and he kept running out of the pocket when he had great protection. Tonight he's done just the opposite. He stood in the pocket, made his reads, and delivered the ball. To me, this is a major step forward for him if they're looking for Stephen McGee to ultimately take over for John Kitna as the number 2 quarterback.
Leading a nice drive here that began back at the 2. And McGee, after that shoulder shake to escape at first, gets sacked at the 37-yard line by the 3rd-year defensive lineman Vaughn Martin.
Well, there was just nobody open. At that time, McGee did the right thing. He stood in the pocket, and I guarantee you that Norv Turner would have loved this as well as Jason Garrett would have loved this on the outside. Here on the outside, though, you get the coverage. There just really wasn't anybody open whatsoever. But I think for Stephen McGee, that is a major step forward, the fact that he is just hanging in the pocket and making throws now.
And Tanner, you're right. You saw good stuff on that tape.
I'm telling you, that's the reason I forego dinner every once in a while.
Just
Jeremy Parnell this time working against the draft pick Corey Legent right here. That was a stunt down inside by Legent, basically running himself out of the play. You really hope at that point that your linebacker is going to step up and around. Jonas Mouton just a little late getting there. Legent really doing his job. He had the inside gap, but a hole was created.
3rd and 1. On the 23-yard line, Tanner again to the outside, and without his helmet, he has to go down. Though once the helmet comes off, it's not like It used to be with Jason Witten, that's all you think about. The helmet comes off, the play is over. Remember, Witten had that spectacular run after he made the catch. And now the official goes over and he says, sorry, the helmet's off, the play is over.
And for obvious reasons, but boy, this is too bad. What an effort. And it's not like
rule this year, when the helmet of a runner comes off, the ball is dead at that spot. There's an illegal shift, two players moving at the same time, offense. A 5-yard penalty, still third down.
Would have come back anyway.
doesn't matter. Look at everybody on the sideline. That's what you love to see in a young player. He has kept fighting all night long. Helmet comes off. I guarantee you the defense was still playing. Arkin got a little shot down the field. That one will be remembered by Jason Garrett and company. Boy, it's so much fun for me to watch these second halves of these games, and I know it means nothing to the veteran players.
Right, Sunday night game in Philadelphia. Classic.
That's all right. You got a little FaceTime in there, too. That's all right.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look at everybody loves a play like that. That's great. That's the best 5-yard loss the Cowboys have had in a long time.
And he's had a nice night even without that. 4 carries, 31 yards. Showing burst and power. 3rd and 6 from the 28. And does he have the first down on forward progress? And he does, as the catch is made by Johnson. Manuel Johnson, who made that nice catch down the left sideline earlier. Tackled there by the rookie Marcus Gilchrist.
All right, I say go Stephen McGee. This is another really nice throw. Good coverage on the outside by Gilchrist. And yet McGee stuck it on the outside shoulder. The one place he could get that completion. That was a professional throw. And again, he's hanging in there tonight.
7.5-minute drive started in his own 2-yard line. This is the 15th play of the drive from the 21 on first down. And McGee gets wrapped up. The ball is loose. Going to be ruled a fumble, at least for the moment. Still loose as the fumble was caused, and San Diego winds up with it by Corey Liuget, the #1 draft choice. Jason Garrett's going to challenge the last call, which was Liuget creating the fumble and then San Diego winding up with the football. Check it out. Is the arm coming forward?
Do we have the old tuck or not?
Well, is the arm coming forward here? Back.
I don't think so.
Me neither.
I mean, he's kind of got that little full hitch in there, and I think it was in the process of going back.
Walt Anderson checking it out. Walt Anderson ready to make the call.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. It is a fumble. Dallas is charged with his first timeout.
Cowboys thought that the arm was coming forward of McGee, but the ball was dislodged as we look at it again before that arm starts to come forward with the empty hand.
Yeah, and really everybody's right here with the exception of David Arkin. He had to come out. That was the blocking scheme right there. And Arkin was just late getting there. It really should have been a routine pickup. And for a guy in the battle, I would imagine that one didn't feel very good.
And here's the rookie out of Wisconsin, Tolzien. Scott Tolzien is the new quarterback, and down he goes. And while he leads the Chargers on this drive, we're going to hook up a two-way from New York. And there is Tony Dungy, who weighed in with us at halftime about matters near and far. And here to talk a little bit more about what's going on. Tony, you've had a chance now to watch a lot of preseason football, as we have. What's your assessment of how it looks to you vis-a-vis what a lot of people thought it might look like?
I think it's been pretty good, but you still see the inconsistencies. I look at a team like New Orleans, who looked so good week 1, and then last night didn't play very well against Houston. And you see some of what's happening here now, a lot of blitzing, especially the young quarterbacks, and they're not able to handle it. So you see where maybe that offseason was missing a little bit, but I think as we get into the season, it's going to be just fine.
Tony, what did you think about the whole Nnamdi Asomugha derby? You know, the Cowboys put out a $10 million a year offer. The Eagles beat them to the punch with about $12 million a year. How high would you have been willing to go to get that corner?
You know, I've never been a fan of that one guy who's going to change everything around and make it happen. I think Nnamdi's a great player. He's definitely going to help Philadelphia, but you can't throw your whole salary structure out the window. You can't you know, go after a guy so much that you don't have money to pay the guys on your team. So you have to exercise some restraint, and I think people did for the most part.
First down picked up here. Tony, just to reiterate in case people missed you at halftime, the speculation about Peyton Manning, would he or would he not be ready on opening day? And you pretty much assured us that he will play on opening day.
You know, I haven't talked to Peyton, but I really feel like he's going to be ready. We had the same situation my last year coaching where he had the knee surgery, and he hadn't taken any practice, but there was no doubt in our mind he was going to play. He was preparing himself mentally to play, and I think if there's any way, shape, or form he can be out there, he will. He doesn't want to let his teammates down, and I expect to see him.
Tony, what did you think about the whole thing that Mike Vick, who I know you're close with him, was sort of steered to Philadelphia and away from a few other teams, including the Cincinnati Bengals, by the commissioner? Do you take any stock in that?
I don't think that was the case. I think he had a lot of people steering him to Philadelphia. I was one of those people. I thought that would be the best place for him. I don't think the commissioner actually got involved in saying you should go here or you shouldn't go there. I was on a couple of those conversations together with Mike and the commissioner, and I was also on some conversations with Roger, and he never mentioned that, never mentioned a particular team anytime I was involved, and I just don't feel like he would do that.
Meanwhile, on the field here, Tolzien has led the Chargers to a couple of first downs at the 44. Tony, I'm wondering, put your old coach's hat on for a second and talk about the new CBA restrictions and rules. And it seems as if obviously there's going to be, you know, no two-a-day practices, more days off, less work in the offseason. Will guys be fresher because of this? What do you think as an old coach?
I think they will. I've talked to my old trainers at the Bucs and at the Colts, and they like the one-a-day in preseason. They feel like it's helped the players because that's basically how the players train. They train once, and so there's been less injuries. Where I have a problem with it, though, is the non-hitting or no-contact practices in the regular season. I know for a fact we would not have won the Super Bowl in 2006 with these rules in place. We had a game late in the year. We gave up almost 400 yards rushing. We had to make a lot of changes, move some people in. We had to practice in pads a couple times to get those changes made. And had we not been able to do that, I think that takes a lot away from that coach's discretion in building his team.
Tony, talk a little bit about Terrell Pryor in this supplemental draft. He's already made the statement that he's willing to play wide receiver, even though he wants to play quarterback, ran a dazzling 40-yard dash for a big man. Your thoughts on how high he may go?
Well, I think based on that, you're going to see some teams that may not have been interested. Based on that time, that 4.40 at that size, people are going to say, wow, if he's willing to commit to play another position, I've got to reevaluate this because this is a big, fast athlete, and now looking at a possible wide receiver, kick returner, that type of thing. I think you'll have some teams that are really now reassessing and maybe thinking a little bit higher than they might have.
Would the suspension of 5 games scare you off at all?
That would. I'm a little disappointed in that. I know the commissioner is making a decision what he thinks is best for football, but everybody who comes in through the supplemental draft has some type of flaw. There was some reason, whether it's grades, dropping out of school, whatever, somehow they become ineligible. Pryor had some problems, but I don't think he's that much different than most of the guys that come in through the supplemental. So I think he's paying twice for the same offense.
Tony, we'll let you go in a second. But who coaches first, you or Cowher? Again.
Oh, I would say definitely Bill Cowher will be coaching before I do.
Okay. Tony, great to see you. Have a great year on Sunday Night Football. We look forward to seeing you before the game and at halftime as well all the way through the year.
Well, thank you, Al and Chris. We'll see you guys in Green Bay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Tony Dungy, who, of course, coached the Indianapolis Colts through the 08 season and then joined us in timeout taken here. Pretty good drive to this point, led by Tolzien and the Chargers.
I will pay your fee if you join my fantasy football league.
I'll pay your fee if you buy that horse, because you've got a couple of horses that run like that, don't you? How are your horses doing, by the way?
Remind me to never take a shot at you.
I want to show up at Keeneland one day and see in a stakes race. On this drive now with under 6 minutes to play, that's Brinkley, the carrier, as Tolzien has come in. He's the rookie free agent out of Wisconsin. Led him into the Rose Bowl last year, losing there to TCU and trying to win a spot on the team. Obviously, you've got Rivers and you've got Volek as the #2 guy. And Scott trying to hang in there.
And Jordan Todman in the game, who is not Darren Sproles, but looks like him a little bit out there.
3rd and 12. And going deep and reaching up, and it's incomplete. Good one-on-one coverage right there. Laurent Robinson, who came over from the St. Louis Rams, coverage by the rookie out of Georgia Tech, Mario Butler, and it's 4th down.
And how many times have we seen Vincent Jackson and Malcolm Floyd come down with these kind of balls? Phillip Rivers does about as good a job as anybody in the NFL of giving his guys a chance as a wideout. That's all you can really ask for, a jump ball situation, a chance to go up and make a play, but pretty good job on the outside by Mario Butler. Said
Now a 53-yard field goal attempt for Nate Kading. And Kading's kick is good. Downtown Dallas, Texas, home of the NBA champion Mavericks. Arlington, home of the American League champion Texas Rangers. So you had the World Series, the NBA Finals played in this area, and the Super Bowl last year as well between Green Bay and Pittsburgh. As Owasi Ansah takes it out of the end zone and brings the ball all the way out to the 25-yard line.
But he's done well. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, the 34 ends a lot of times end up being guys that are supposed to sort of hold the point, stop the run. They're bigger guys. But Legit, that's not his role. His role is going to be as the pass rusher.
McGee from the 25-yard line slips it underneath into the arms of Philip Tanner, having a very good quarter. The rookie free agent out of Middle Tennessee State. Gain of a couple.
Little no huddle now for McGee.
McGee leading a good long drive, and then the fumble before his arm came forward ended a 15-play drive the last time he had the ball. Ton of time, buying time, and now the pass is incomplete. The secondary does its work, and McGee now with a 3rd down and 7 upcoming.
You know, we've talked so much about Rob Ryan tonight, but Greg Minuski's troops have really had a nice night. You know, the Dallas Cowboys came in here, and Minuski was in the same sort of boat. He came in, had to put in this new defense. He sort of kept the old terminology, but brought his defense down with him. He used to be here in San Diego as a linebacker coach. They brought him back, And we're seeing an uptick on this defense.
3rd down and 7. And that's incomplete. They weren't number 1 statistically defensively last year, which meant they allowed the fewest yards in the league. But around the Chargers, they know as well as they may have played defensively, and you have to play at least pretty well to be number 1. They didn't get enough turnovers. There were sacks in bunches, not spread out over the course of the season. But when you're number 1 in defense, your coordinator gets a look at head coaching positions, and Ron Rivera, of course, is now the head coach in Carolina.
Yeah, they were 10th, though, in scoring defense. So there were plenty of flaws that could still be corrected. And the talk around here is that Takeo Spikes and some of the guys they brought over, Bob Sanders, have just brought a different emotional edge to this defense, even in practice.
Walters brings the kick back to the 40-yard line.
Good looking group over there. It really is. I've been impressed, and really they did it tonight without a lot of their linebackers even playing in this game. Sean Phillips and some of the guys, Antoine Barnes, LeBoy, they all missed, and they're trying to make some changes on their defensive side. Go younger over there with Donald Butler and Jonas Mouton. Brought Stephen Cooper back, and they're going to be improved.
That was Brinkley for a gain of 4. Let's take a look at the Cowboys schedule. They start with coast-to-coast action. They go to the Jets on September 11th. That's our Sunday night opener. And then they go to San Francisco the following week. They come back on a Monday night against Washington, and then Detroit. And then they have an early bye before they go to New England. 2nd down and 7, and some mix-up in the backfield with Jordan Todman. You know, the Cowboys, no matter how they've played, where they are, what people expect, they're always great theater, they're great television. All right, from the perspective of August, what do you think? Good year, great year, average year, what?
They're certainly not the favorites in the division. I think that belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles right now. The Giants are going to be there in the mix. I really feel like it's going to come down to a couple of things. One, how soon does this young offensive line get its act together? And 2, defensively, do they have good enough corners on the back end to really run Rob Ryan's defense? And Tyron Smith is going to be a big part of that mix. I guarantee you Rex Ryan is making plans for him right now, how they're going to attack those young guys.
And that's a tough way to open up the season. I mean, not the Jets, where the Jets will be favored, obviously. And then San Francisco, of course, coming off a not very good year. New coach in Jim Harbaugh, but it's a road game before they get home. 3rd and 5 here from the 44. And taken down by Ori Lemon, making the tackle right there. And timeout taken here. Then there were the Chargers, and again we go back to what we said at the top. I mean, over the last 3 or 4 years, everybody says, you know, it's New England, it's Indianapolis, and San Diego. Now nobody's really talking about San Diego because of the disappointments in postseason and the bad starts, and of course what happened last year, not even making the playoffs.
You know what was interesting, though? 4 of their 7 losses were in games where I think they outgained their opponent by like 150 yards or more. I mean,
Right.
that just doesn't happen in the National Football League. So to some extent you say, all right, let's throw out some of the fluky plays on special teams that we gave up. Let's throw out some of the turnovers because we had a running back changeover at that position. And maybe this whole thing gets back together. The question, though, is, you know, LT used to never fumble. These guys have to do a better job than what they did a season ago when they turned the ball over.
Best regular season marks since 06. Pats, Colts, Bolts. Fair catch made at the 20-yard line by Dwayne Harris. And again, we talked about the Chargers and how imperative it's going to be for them to start hot, because they had that very, very tough second week. But apart from that, you've got 3 home games. Minnesota to open things up. Then you come home with the division champ Kansas City Chiefs and Miami. So you've got 3 of those 4 games, and they obviously want to come out at least 3-1. And then they go to Denver. And then they're away at New York and at Kansas City. They are on the road for almost a month, counting the bye week. So 3 of those first 4 at home, huge.
Yeah, the Kansas City game probably the key one because of the way Kansas City played a season ago. That was very impressive how they got things turned around and in a big-time hurry down there. Matt Castle doing a terrific job. Todd Haley, Scott Pioli, the whole group won that division and surprised a lot of people.
Curtis Clay out of TCU made the catch on the last play, and now McGee going no huddle, juggled, caught, tackled, 39-yard line. Frank Warren, a rookie from Grambling State. And San Diego will get Kansas City not only early at home, they get them before October is over. So they're going to wind up playing both games with Kansas City before the calendar turns to November. 2nd and 4. Warren again. Takes it to midfield as we tick down under 3 minutes.
But I will say this, the San Diego Chargers are one of those teams like the New England Patriots that you don't look at anybody on their schedule and go, oh, they can't beat them. You know, I mean,
right.
This is a team that, in my opinion, is still loaded, is still very good, and is still very much a threat to win the Super Bowl.
And that pass is broken up. Dante Hughes got a hand on it. 2nd down and 10. McGee seeing a lot of action first 2 weeks against Denver. 3 touchdowns. And then tonight he's thrown 20 balls. And over the middle, the catch is made here by Martin Rucker. Fighting for some extra yardage. He was down at the 39-yard line. 1st down. Or was he down is the question.
The ball came out. Let's see if he had a knee down or not. Right there. Yep. Good call by the officials.
Cowboys out of timeouts as we come upon the 2-minute warning. And again, the catch is made here by Martin Rucker, and that takes us to the 2-minute mark at Cowboys Stadium, where the San Diego Chargers heading back to California after the game, up by 13. Cowboys from the 30-yard line. Dallas no timeouts as we hit to the finish line. And McGee slings it over the middle, and that's nearly picked off at the 10-yard line by Darryl Stuckey, the 2nd-year DB from Kansas.
Well, you heard Stephen McGee yell kill, kill, which means that he called 2 plays in the huddle, killed the first one to this. He liked this little middle read down the middle to Martin Rucker and couldn't quite stick it in there. They like Darryl Stuckey, the young man that made this play here. They think that he's got a chance.
2nd and 10 now from the 30-yard line. McGee to the outside, and nothing happening over there. And a flag is down, however, on the far side of the 19-yard line.
Holding, number 30, defense. 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
Rookie Broadway from Arkansas.
You know, this is kind of a strange moment in the game. Obviously, Jason Garrett's going to go for the whole thing here and try to win it. But he may prefer to kick a field goal to take a look at his kicker, Dan Bailey. David Beeler and Dan Bailey in a pretty heated competition for the field goal kicker job. And Bailey hasn't had a chance to attempt one yet tonight.
Now McGee throws, catch made. Fighting his way for a 1st down to the 15-yard line goes Raymond Radway. I think Bailey would rather kick an extra point.
Yeah. And an onside kick.
Right. From the 15. And to the corner of the end zone and incomplete.
You know, it is interesting. We talked about all those kickoff rules, and one of the things that came up you say, all right, if you want to eliminate the kickoff return, why don't you just put the ball in the 20 and let's go? And one of the reasons they wouldn't consider doing that is you would eliminate the possibility of an onside kick. It's interesting that the onside kick may be the only thing saving kickoffs right now in the National Football League.
Right, it's all about safety. I mean, that was the impetus for everything, because the league wants to see the excitement of a kickoff return, but it got to the point where there were so many injuries, relatively speaking, that they had to do something, or they felt they did anyway. To the 6-yard line goes McGee, and we've got another flag on the play. And we all know we've grown so accustomed over the years on kickoff returns after we get Anderson's call.
Illegal contact, number 97, defense. That will penalize half the distance from the goal from the end of the run, first down.
I mean, seemingly a few times a week, what you'd see on a kickoff return is illegal block in the back and a guy getting carted off.
Right there, Bront Bird well past 5 yards down the field, going to give the illegal contact, and another first down for the Cowboys.
At the 3-yard line, first and goal. 75 seconds remaining in the game. And McGee throwing a little fade, and that's incomplete. Intended for James Cleveland.
Nice job by Stephen Harrison on the outside, feeling that route coming and taking it away. Down here on the goal line, you're either going in or out. That's it. Sometimes they just guess, and I think that time Harrison had a little help to the inside, so he played the outside, and Cowboys were expecting man coverage.
Second down and goal. And McGee will throw that slant, but into traffic, and that's incomplete. Intended for Lyle Young, a rookie from Texas Tech. It'll be third and goal.
And that was a nice job by Ramon Broadway there. He saw that pick play coming, if you will, 2 for 1 on the outside. See him back off here so that he can get over the top when they crisscross, and he's right there to make the play. Young Buck's doing some good things out here.
Third and goal. And McGee buying time, and that pass may have been deflected on its way into the arms of the would-be receiver as Darryl Stuckey got a hand on it to force the incompletion and make it fourth down.
I'll tell you, 3 different plays and 3 different defenders for the Chargers have made plays. Greg Minuski told me he had a bunch of cornerbacks. I didn't realize they went about 10 deep. See if they have one more in them here. This would be pretty impressive.
And you think about the corners in San Diego in recent years to have this many. And remember, Antonio Cromartie's only 2 years removed from San Diego. He may have been the best of all at one point.
This is the second charge timeout. San Diego, 30-second timeout.
So September the 8th, 2 weeks from Thursday, Lambeau Field is the site. The game is on NBC. We will have it for you. Then Sunday night of that week, the 11th, Cowboys and Jets football night. As usual, we'll begin at 7 o'clock Eastern time every Sunday night on NBC. Football night in America.
10-year anniversary of 9/11 on that Sunday night in New York City. It should be a special evening as we remember so many people.
Very special tribute planned around the league that day, and a couple of sites in particular, Washington, D.C. as well, with the Redskins opening up that afternoon. Fourth down and goal now after the defensive timeout. McGee spreading them out. All the way back off his back foot from the 26-yard line, throws up a prayer, and that's incomplete. So those DBs all getting in plenty of action.
Well, Stephen McGee, he went the whole game without doing one of these, and ordinarily it's really just the difference. In the NFL, you just can't bail out of the pocket when it's there. The pocket was good, it was fine, and then he's going to kind of bail out of there. You just have to make quick reads and throw the football to the first guy that gets open. Because, I mean, most of these defensive linemen are probably faster than Stephen McGee. That's the nature of the beast in the NFL.
And now the Chargers can run the clock out from the 3-yard line. Up by 13. Dallas cannot stop the clock. And the ball will simply be handed off to Brinkley, and one more handoff will end the first half of preseason for these two teams. San Diego losing in its preseason opener to Seattle, and Dallas knocking off Denver here a week ago Thursday.
But it was a good week for both of these teams, getting to practice together twice and then playing the game. I think both these head coaches feel like that this has probably been the most important 3 days that they'll have the entire preseason.
And a kneel down by Tolzien will end it here at Cowboys Stadium, where Norv Turner's team takes the early lead and never looks back, knocking off the Dallas Cowboys. The final score is San Diego 20 and Dallas 7.